Welcome back to Trey's Wildlife Adventures. Today is my Christmas special. So I want you guys to sit back, relax, get yourself something to drink, maybe some eggnog or some apple cider or maybe some hot cocoa. And I'm going to tell you some of my Christmas wildlife adventures that I have had in my past. I have different things that we have done in the past with our Christmas celebrations, and I'm just going to share just a few of them that are real special to me that my family has done for the Christmas holidays. And so the first I'm going to talk about is my first Christmas in Florida. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and up in Pennsylvania it snows. It's real Christmassy, you know, once you have all that snow and all those lights and everything. But here in Florida, you got palm trees and things like that. And so I was a kid, my family, my mom, my dad, my family, we all came to South Florida for Christmas one year to visit my grandma. And we were staying at my grandmother's house. I was kind of worried Santa Claus wouldn't come and visit because I live in Pennsylvania and we're, in South Florida. So my dad, he took it onto himself to kind of make it special for me, knowing that I'm really into wildlife. So that year, my first Christmas in Florida, what we ended up doing at my grandmother's house is we went out. My dad, usually, you decorate the tree and everything, and then on Christmas night, you would leave out cookies and milk for Santa Claus. And Santa Claus definitely loved chocolate chip cookies, and he loved his milk. And you always know he's in a hurry because he'll leave a little bit of crumb or just eat, one bite out of that cookie. Well, what my dad had an idea. Now, I don't know where he came up with this idea. But he kind of knew I was a little down a little bit. So what we ended up doing was my dad got a bunch of 5-gallon buckets and some hay and carrots. And we went into the front yard of my grandmother's house that night. We set up inside the milk and cookies for Santa, but we set up a bunch of 5-gallon buckets with water and hay and a carrot for each reindeer when they would come and land while Santa Claus was inside the house giving his presents. At least the reindeer could actually get a snack as well, and that stuck in my head and memories forever. So that's a really good memory for me and remembering what we did, and it was real special. But that was my first Christmas in Florida. And then we were just visiting my grandmother. And so the next, this is hot. I'm going to take this off. But I look good. But this is a little hot. Oh, oof. So, my next Christmas thing that we ended up doing was we were just visiting my grandmother at the time, but then my family, my mom and dad, we ended up moving to South Florida. And our first Christmas in South Florida was another real special one. This one actually was the idea of my mom. And ever since that one, that's been kind of my tradition for a very long time. And that is on Christmas morning, we would wake up, do our gifts, and have a drink or whatever, coffee or what, my parents always had their coffee to wake up in the morning, especially to deal with my crazy. But we would, after we were done Christmas morning, my mom, my dad, and I, we loaded up into the family van, and we went out into the Everglades. And we made that into our tradition every year. We would wake up Christmas morning, do our gifts or whatever in the morning, and then we would load up and we head out into the Everglades for Christmas morning. And that first Christmas morning we did that, we went out into an area of big cypress, and we're driving down the dirt roads looking for wildlife and things like that. And we'll see a couple water snakes here and there. But that Christmas, I found my first pygmy rattlesnake. At the time, I was real young, and I was so excited and so happy to see my first venomous snake, and at that, a pygmy rattlesnake. First time I've ever seen a pygmy rattlesnake in the wild was that morning, on that Christmas morning. And so I wanted to check them out and everything, move them out of the area. So my dad, because we just moved to South Florida, my dad pulled out the ice scraper for the van that you would scrape the ice off the windshield, and I used that as a snake hook to safely move that pygmy rattlesnake off of the road. And I remember a guy, he pulled over and he was like, "Oh, you gotta watch out, that's a venomous rattlesnake." And we know, and we looked in the back of his pickup truck, the whole back was full of empty beers and stuff early in the morning. But yeah, that started our tradition after that. So every morning, my mom, my dad, and I, we would load up every Christmas morning and head out into the Everglades and see, we would get our presents in the morning, but at that time when we would go out into the Everglades, it was like, what kind of present is God going to bestow upon us for Christmas morning? And God always has some kind of special thing every Christmas morning for us. Now, one of the other times I want to share with you is I went at one time I was married and then not married, and so I was going to have my first Christmas by myself. My dad at that time, he was somewhere else, and I was going to be home alone. So I was starting to feel a little bummed. I was like, well, this is not going to be an awesome Christmas. And would you know, my buddy, Scott, from the show Gator Boys, came through and he's like, "Trey," he goes, "I will go with you on Christmas morning out into the Everglades." And I was so happy. That meant a lot to me. So what we ended up doing is we got up early in the morning and we loaded up. We drove all the way out into the Big Cypress Preserve. And Scott and I were just hiking. Instead of just driving around, we decided to go for a hike. And as we were hiking through some saw palmetto area, and we're walking around, and we would hear it rustle in the leaves in the saw palmettos. And and then Scott goes, "Oh, what is that?" And I was like, "Scott, don't worry." I mean, it sounded big, but I was like, "Don't worry. Every time I hear that, it's an armadillo. Every time it's an armadillo." He's like, "I don't know. I think it's something big." I was like, "It's an armadillo, Scott." And we start walking around, and we still hearing it, and all of a sudden, as Scott and I are walking, this giant black bear comes walking out of the saw palmetto bushes. And Scott and I just froze, and we looked, and we're like, "Oh." Scott's like, "That's like a 400 or 500 pound black bear." And I was like, "It's a big black bear, Scott." And so what we ended up doing was we ended up following that bear. We were downwind of that bear. So when that bear wasn't able to smell us, so Scott and I, we just followed that bear for a long time, watching him eating some of the saw palmetto berries and different things on the ground. And we're just following them. And then all of a sudden, that bear stopped eating. And his head was down, but he was facing towards us. And as he was facing towards us, he was looking down, eating, right? And then all of a sudden, that bear looks up. And he looks up at us, and that bear goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa," and he like charges right at us. And Scott and I just froze, and we just stood our ground. And this bear, the whole time while we're tracking this bear, we're like maybe 20 yards from it, you know, and that bear just boom, and it just cut down some distance, and now it's probably about 15 yards from us, and we just froze, and we just looked at it, and then all of a sudden that bear just went and just turned around and just ran away from us. And that was an awesome Christmas morning with Scott. That meant a whole lot to me. You know, I thought I was going to just have a bummed out Christmas, and Scott came through and he was there for me for Christmas. Him and I got together, went out, and just had a blast. Now, fast forward a few years later, I kept doing those type of traditions here and there when I could. Sometimes, like working at Holiday Park once in a blue moon, they would always alternate. You would have to work Christmas morning, and people would go out into the Everglades at the Holiday Park and on Christmas morning to go for an airboat ride. It was kind of crazy. So we always tried to make it special for them. Sometimes I would have candy canes I would bring and hand them out, and but it was always a good time. And now fast forward, we were doing. I got with my amazing, wonderful wife Vanessa, and her and I, we started doing that same tradition every Sunday or every Christmas. We would go out in the Everglades if we could for our Christmas morning. Sometimes we couldn't because we don't have, sometimes we didn't have a vehicle that would make it out into the woods or anything like that. But for the most part, we always tried. And then when we first moved to the area that we're in now in Central Florida and Ocala area, when we first moved here, we would go to Silver Springs all the time for hiking. In Silver Springs, they got all these different hiking trails, not just where the glass bottom boat ride is, but they got all these other hiking trails that would go all over the place. And so what we ended up doing one Christmas morning is we decided, the whole family, we had like a full loaded house. That was kind of new for me because usually I never had that much family in a house, and Vanessa's family is huge and they're all close and all amazing people. And so we had a full house of a bunch of people over for Christmas morning. It was really, really awesome. And so we told everybody about the tradition that my mom started when I was a kid, and everybody was like, yeah, let's do it. So instead of getting in the car and driving somewhere, we all loaded up in the cars, drove to Silver Springs, and went for a hike. Now, Vanessa and I, like I said, we would go hiking there all the time. And one of the things that we heard about is monkeys. That there's monkeys in Silver Springs. And these are the herpy monkeys. Everybody's heard of the monkeys with herpes at Silver Springs. And for a whole year, Vanessa and I, we would go in different areas, rent kayaks and everything, looking for these monkeys. We looked for a whole year. Not one monkey. Heard them once in a while. You would hear them up in the trees, but we never got to see them. We saw pictures, but we never got to see them. Well, that Christmas morning, we all loaded up. We all went to Silver Springs. Once we got to Silver Springs, we decided to go to certain trails. And this one trail we decided to go on, it's a nice hike that goes through the woods. And you end up going on this little wooden boardwalk. And this little boardwalk goes to the actual spring, Silver Spring. And you can just kind of sit there and just look at the most beautiful, crystal clear water ever. And so we went, we hiked, the whole family. We went, hiked, and just sat right there and just admired the beauty that was there. It's just so beautiful and so peaceful. So we're all hanging out, And I mean, it's like the whole family, and Vanessa's family, a lot of people. We're all just hanging out, and all of a sudden, I look over and I see something like hop. I saw something move on a tree, and I was like, "What is that?" And I'm staring and I'm looking, and I'm letting my eyes adjust because it's kind of far, but I'm starting to adjust, and all of a sudden, I started seeing more. Guess what it was? Go ahead, take a guess. If you guessed a manatee, wrong. It was the monkeys. They were running up the tree, diving off into the water. They were playing. It was like they had their own Christmas gifts or something, and just playing and having a blast at the spring. And I'm guessing because there wasn't that many people out there, so it was just like just the perfect timing. And like I was saying earlier in the video, you know, when my mom started this tradition, it was every time we would go out, it's like, what gift is God going to give us on this beautiful Christmas morning? And, you know, we would always find like the pygmy rattlesnake or some beautiful snake or the black bear. And then this time, with our first Christmas in Ocala, we finally saw the monkeys at Silver Spring. And it was just so amazing. It was so wonderful. So I'm hoping you guys are going to have a great, happy holiday. And I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year's. Whatever your religion is, Merry Christmas. I hope everybody has a wonderful and blessed holidays. And would you want to say something? This is Riri. Riri would like to say something. You want to say something to everybody out there? Huh? Riri is our special kitty. Oh, these are special. All right, Riri, what you wanted to say to everybody? God bless us, everyone. Aww. Isn't that wonderful? So guys, again, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and just enjoy each other, enjoy each other's company. If you haven't called a loved one in a long time, give them a call and just say hi, you know, and Merry Christmas. And it's about family around these holidays and friends. So reach out to everybody and just wish them a happy holidays. So from Trey's Wildlife Adventures, have a great and wonderful time.